everyone. Happy Saturday, first of all. We are going live today with Camille, who is a aerospace engineer turned business strategist, and going to be talking to her about really her journey from aerospace into business strategy. I'm just waiting for her to join. Let me see here.
Hi.
Hi, Camille. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning for you. I know it's 9 a.m. your time, right?
It is, but it's okay. We're up at 6 with the dog anyways every morning.
Perfect. I hear you. We're 6:30 with our dogs, so they.
Yep. Yeah, it's we say 6 and then it turns into 6:30.
Yeah. I know you don't need an alarm clock with dogs. They're up all the time, every day, no matter what day.
I gotta go. Let's go.
Exactly. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having
Saturday.
me.
Of course. So I've been following your journey in your social media for a while now, and it's so inspiring, and I just love what you're doing, and it's just really incredible. So I'm really happy to be talking to you.
Right back at you.
Thank you. Well, I guess to get started, tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. So I am an aerospace engineer turned business strategist. I currently work at Lockheed Martin Space in Denver, Colorado. So I graduated from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville with a degree in aerospace engineering in May of 2019. So I've only been out of school for 2 years. And I worked as an engineer for a little bit, and then I moved more into the business development roles. So I get to combine engineering and business every day, which is my dream. And then on the side, I run Galactic Gal, and I'm also the director of marketing for a new space startup called Space VIP. You can get into all of that.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. That's a lot on your plate too.
It's a lot, but I have help. I have, a great team, which is what's really, really important.
Huge. Yeah, and I think half the thing too is when you enjoy what you are doing, it makes it easier too.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I live, breathe, eat everything space. So I'm in my little space cove here. So I got my little astronaut here that you can't see, and I got some space patents. So I got so many space things. I love it so much. So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't really know what else I would be doing with my free time.
That's wonderful though. And I know I want to get into a bit later. I want to get into how you transitioned from aerospace engineer to business strategist. But before we even get into that, what sparked your initial interest in aerospace engineering? Was it, do you remember that moment when you became
I
do. Really? Okay, tell me about it.
Maybe it was like a planted memory. I don't know, but I think I remember it. So I was 4 and my family and I had moved from North Carolina to Florida for my dad's job. And we lived in St. Petersburg, so it's on the western peninsula, the western side of the peninsula. But fun fact, you can still see space shuttles launch, and now you can see any rocket launch. You can't feel it, you can't hear it or anything, but you can see the trail. And so my parents took me up on top of this parking deck and to watch the space shuttle. My dad is a huge space nerd and wanted to, and I think I saw him join. So, hey, Dad. But he is a huge space nerd and wanted to kind of expose me to that at a young age. And so I saw the trail of the space shuttle launch, and it was December 5th, 2001. And I looked up and I was like, I want to be an astronaut. That was so cool. And so that's really what kickstarted my love. And, kind of throughout my childhood, I had great, phenomenal support at home. I had a great education, but the social aspect was still really rough on women and, young girls who were smart and like science and math. And so I kind of suppressed my love of space and science and math and stuff. And it wasn't until I got to college that I rekindled that love. And now that's literally all I do.
Exactly. When you went to college, did you have the mindset still at that point that you wanted to get into engineering, or what did you initially kind of go into college for?
Yeah, actually went straight into aerospace engineering. I didn't change majors at all. I went to Tennessee originally for music. I have a trumpet background as well. But I was like, I love math. I don't really know what I want to do. And so my dad had been saying my entire childhood that I would be a great engineer, and I kept saying no because I thought that that was for boys, and social suicide, I don't know, number 1,000,001 kind of thing. But I went there and they were so, so supportive of women in STEM, and I just had such a great experience there. So I just stayed in engineering the whole time.
Wow. So I'm assuming, Camille, you mentioned your dad is very much into space. Is he, just out of curiosity, is he a aerospace engineer as well?
No.
Okay.
So he's in IT and networking. My mom's also in computer programming. So I have the background. A lot of my family is in math and science. So I have the background, and like that's probably where all of this love for math and science comes from. But the space world, no, my dad just like absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I want to send people to Mars.
Yeah. Wow. It's so interesting. I feel like I could pick your brain all day about it. I'll keep it to half an hour today, but so this brings me to my next question, which is, so I was telling my partner last night that we were doing an IG Live, and one of his questions was, well, what exactly does an aerospace engineer do? And I looked at him and I'm like, good question. What does an aerospace engineer do in, for people who, like myself, who don't really know?
Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. The answer to that is, I mean, I could talk for an hour about that. And the thing is, that's why it's so cool, is there's so many different things you can do. So just a quick rundown is that aerospace is a combination of aeronautics and astronautics. So aeronautics is, think anything that stays in our atmosphere. So like planes, helicopters, things like that. Astronautics is anything outside of our atmosphere. So you have satellites, deep space exploration, human exploration, things like that. So in terms of like what I do on the space side, there's satellites. You can send people to the moon, to eventually to Mars, rockets. So there's just so many things that aerospace encompasses on the space side of things, as well as the air side of things. And I spent some time in the air side of things as well. But it's so hard to like pinpoint what it is. But I guess like overarching, what I would say is that for the space side of things, you are working on a couple different things. First and foremost, right? Like you're working on exploration, and you're sending people to different planets eventually. You're sending robots, if you will, to the edges of our solar system. And farther, right? We have things that are outside of our solar system now. But you're also working on satellites that help Earth. So climate change, GPS, weather, firefighting, so many different things, as well as all the satellites that do their job every day so that we can sleep at night and feel protected. So it's so hard to like say one thing, but there are just so many different things that you can do with it.
And with that, because there are so many different things, is it one of those industries where you can kind of specialize in a certain area, or throughout that?
Absolutely. So you can, I'll just stay on the space side of things, but you can specialize in guidance, navigation, and control. So that's very coding heavy, orbital mechanics, very, very physics heavy. You can specialize in propulsion, materials, data handling, human factors. So working with astronauts, and, or even like making sure that our ground stations are friendly enough for the user to use, things like that. So absolutely.
Wow, that's so interesting. That's really cool. It would be hard. I mean, you have to, but and maybe this is from an outside perspective, but I feel like it'd be hard to turn it off because it's so interesting. Like it'd be easy just to like continue.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay, so you kind of answered this already, your path into aerospace engineering. So it started young age with family as well. And then college, you knew, even in college, when you were taking aerospace engineering, you knew the entire time you wanted to kind of stick with that path.
Right.
And then did you do some internships in college, or what was that experience like with your internships?
Yeah, so I had 3 internships. My first one, I was working on hypersonics, so anything that moves faster than the speed of sound. So that was very much on the air side of things. And I was doing some testing, so that was very, very hands-on. I was in the lab with the wind tunnels, designing parts of the wind tunnel, doing data analysis. It wasn't really for me, for a couple different reasons. It was very, very in a lab when I didn't really want to spend my life in a lab. But also it was on the air side. My second internship was also on the air side, but I was at Pratt & Whitney. I saw you were just in Montreal and they have a facility up there, but there's 3 engine companies in the world for jet engines, and that's Pratt & Whitney is one of them. And so I worked there. I was in Connecticut, so that was fun to get to move away from the South for the first time. And I was doing performance there. And so that's very much thermodynamics heavy for any engineering students online. And so I was looking at, the gas cycles and all that jazz to see how we could make our engines more efficient, because as you know, jet fuel is very expensive. So that was cool. I love thermodynamics. It was actually my favorite class in college, but again, it was still on the air side and I wanted space. And so my third internship was the coolest. And I got to work on Orion, which is part of the Artemis program that's taking us back to the moon for the first time in over 50 years. And I worked as a mechanical integration engineer. And long story short, what that means is we have a bunch of engineers that design all of the different parts that have to go into a vehicle. And then we have all the people that actually build it and integrate it and test it and launch it. And that's called ATLO, ATLO. And we needed somebody to be in the middle of that, because it's, especially on a program like Orion that's like absolutely huge and you're sending people to the moon, there's a lot to go into it and a lot of risk involved. So my team was positioned in the middle of that to make sure that what we designed could actually be integrated and built and tested and launched eventually, right at the end of this year or beginning of next year. So that's what I did. And I always tell people, college is really the only time in life that it is acceptable to work a job for 3 months and then quit.
Yeah.
And take advantage of that, because you can get to do so many different things, and you can have internships at so many different places, and it doesn't have to just be industry. My first one was at a research institution, right? And so there are so many different things you can do. You can also do research in college. And again, that's one of those things. You can work for a semester and then quit. Like, you can't do that in the real world. So take advantage of it and try to find what you want.
Yes, exactly. And to add to that, it's one of those times, those rare times, that not only can you find what you like, but equally you can find out what you don't like through different internships too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of had that journey because I realized that I didn't really like working with a wind tunnel, and I didn't really like working on jet engines, and that I knew that I wanted to go into the space sector. So, if I hadn't had those experiences, I wouldn't be able to talk about it. And maybe I would say, what if, maybe I do like that.
Exactly. Okay, next question I have for you is, this is going to be a hard question, I think, for you. Because What would you say, I'll say one of your favorite, not just your favorite, one of your favorite parts of your job?
Oh, man. Just the fact that, so two things here is that, one, we're, of course, sending people to the moon and working on sustainable settlements on the moon and eventually Mars, and all the science that is going to come from that, all of the world collaborations that are going to come from that, the new technologies, just so many different things, just getting to send people to different worlds. But the other side of it is getting to help fix the problems that we have here on Earth. And I'm really, really passionate about explaining how and educating that space really is so critical to life on Earth. And, we have satellites, I kind of mentioned at the beginning, we have satellites that monitor our fires and help our firefighters fight them. We can predict where the fires are going to happen and try to prevent them. And we're actively working on ways to make that better, of course. We monitor climate change, but even just simple things, right? Like, you open up your weather app and that comes from a satellite, right? And you open up GPS and that comes from 4 satellites, and there's 4 satellites beaming down at you any given time. And that is just so cool to me. And, other things like the technologies that were developed for the International Space Station. A big example of this is the water purification system, because it's a closed loop, right? So yes, astronauts pee and then it gets recycled and they drink it. But that is, right, so applicable to life on Earth. And so they use that water purification system in third world countries to help with their water. And that, I just get chills talking about that, like right now. Like, this is so cool. And just knowing that, like, I get to have an impact on our daily lives and people that I've never met, right? Everyone's daily life is so impactful to me to know that I am a part of something much, much bigger than myself.
Wow, that gave me chills. That's it's incredible.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't even have words. I was gonna say that's so exciting, but like it's beyond. I can't even. It's yeah. Okay, what would you say in turn is the most challenging part of your job, or one of the most challenging?
Yeah, I think a really challenging part of the space industry is all the red tape. And, I didn't really realize that going into the aerospace industry. And I think it's really important that we share that life. It's not, it's there for a reason. And by red tape, I mean, the government is our customer and they want very, very specific things. It's also the government. So they're a little bit slow sometimes. They have a lot of rules, a lot of things we have to follow. Even let's talk about like human spaceflight, for example. There's so much red tape there because we're literally sending humans to space, and that's very, very dangerous. And we have to make sure that the stuff that we develop minimizes that danger, right? And it does, and we do such a good job of that. But it's very frustrating at times, especially coming out of college, not knowing that there is going to be so much. You can't do this in your job every day and having to push through that. But it's also really exciting because you get to find different ways to do things, and you get to learn to work with all different parts of the government, but also all different parts of the commercial sector. And, it's a very unique industry that you get to work with, NASA one day, the intelligence community the next day, a commercial customer like Sirius XM, right? Those are satellites, of course. So it's really cool, but it's also really frustrating at times. And it's something you have to just have, resiliency against so that you can just keep going and know that you're part of something much, much bigger than you.
Yes, definitely. And as you mentioned, I'm sure it's the most, the challenge is when you are just out of college and you're not expecting that initially, or you haven't dealt with that, that's probably when it hits closest, and then you just learn to navigate it more so.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. Biggest piece of advice I'm going to keep on saying one of, because I know there's so many. One of the biggest pieces of advice for others who are looking to get into the industry.
My biggest piece of advice is don't listen when people say it's rocket science. That is my biggest pet peeve is the term it's rocket science or it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And that's what my whole platform is kind of built off of here is that frustration and that pet peeve that single, however many words it is, 5 words, like that single phrase has the ability to turn someone off from an entire career. Yeah. Because you tell somebody that it's hard, what are they going to do? Especially a kid, right? They're going to be like, I'm not going to do that, right? My life is already going to be hard enough. Why am I going to make it harder? And so my biggest piece of advice is overarching, like, don't listen to that. Okay, great, Camille. How do I not listen to that? And here's how. Look at people on social media. And I so believe in the power of social media nowadays. And I'm not just saying that because of my platform. There are so many people, like, look, people follow you to learn about coding. I've learned so much from your platform. And I think that that's so important to have that representation. Like, you are blonde, you're beautiful, and you're talking about coding, right? And that representation is going to change so many young girls who look like you, right?
Same with what you're doing. Exactly.
And that is why I believe in the power of social media is find that representation. Find people that are willing to help you, that are willing to explain concepts to you, because it is difficult, but it's not impossible. And that's the narrative that we need to change, is that it's not impossible. And so, sorry, this is turned into like a more like a soapbox on stop saying it's rocket science, but it's really find that representation. Find people who are going to advocate for you, help you, right? College was hard at times, like work is hard at times, but you have to find the people that are going to advocate for you and make it accessible to you.
You do. All of that, I love, and I completely agree and echo. It's so important. And especially too, when you're entering into an industry where, it typically is male dominated, or in different things like that, having someone to advocate for you, or that you can really trust and that supports you and truly wants the best, it's a game changer. It can make or break your journey, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I look at my career, and every job I ever got was because I had a mentor who advocated for me.
Yes.
And I say this next part, not to, you know, talk about my GPA or anything, but like on paper, I have a perfect GPA. I had all these internships. And I say that because I want to emphasize that that still did not get me through any system. And it's so frustrating in college when you're applying for jobs and applying, still never hear back. And I want you to know that, like, most of the time it's not you. The algorithms that we have in place that I think really, really need to change, because we're losing out on so much good talent, because you have somebody with a perfect resume and all this great experience, passion and everything, and then you still can't get through the system, right? And so it goes back to just the mentors of everything that's ever happened in my career for the better is because of a mentor who really advocated for me and wanted to help me succeed.
I completely agree. And I'm almost the opposite, in the sense that but still the mentor was the most important part, in the sense that I didn't go to school for software development. I didn't have any prior experience. So when I did go into the tech industry, you know, on paper, I looked horrible. And, you know, and my experience was next to none. But because of the right mentors advocating and seeing how hard I was working at that, and especially coding and all of that, I was able to land my first job and even my second job and continue from there. So it's, you know, on complete, you know, opposite sides of the spectrum, but same.
Yeah, no, that's such a good perspective too. And I love that. And I know we talked before, but I'm definitely going to reverse the favor because I want to learn all about your journey as well.
Yes. Well, okay, so I have 3 questions. We kind of covered some of these, but when I asked yesterday for the audience to answer or ask some questions, there was a ton of questions, but I narrowed it down to 3 based on the trends. So the first question was, how did you get your job as a business strategist? And we haven't really touched on this yet, so I'm really curious to know too, your transition from aerospace engineering to business strategy.
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with a mentor. You know, I went to one of my most trusted mentors, and I was like, hey, I've had these engineering jobs, 5 of them now with internships and full-time, and I'm not jazzed to go to work. I am so miserable here, right? Like, I love the mission, but I can't do this every day and just be on like such a lower level. Even though I was a systems engineer, so I kind of saw a lot of the big system, it was still like not enough for me. And he was like, what do you like? And I was like, I don't know. And so what I did, I started writing down, because I looked back at my college career, and at that point, I had only been out a year, and I loved college. And I went down and I wrote down everything that I loved about it. And I did not love the stress and the exams and, you know, all that jazz, right? But I wrote down a list of the things that I really, really enjoyed. And what it came down to was like helping an organization at large with strategy. Where are we going into the future? You know, bringing in new talent, helping people, things like that. And I went to my mentor and I was like, here's what I like. How can I do that in the industry? He was like, business development. Now, he might have been a little bit biased because he was a director in business development, but it worked out. He knew, right? Because that's what his whole job was. And he was like, this is what you do. And so he helped me find the right people and find an opening. And it actually worked out really well too, because the specific opening was for, you know, a team that was very, very new and trying to do things radically different within a big organization. And I would really have an ability to strategize about the future of the team and the organization and how we can impact the larger organization of Lockheed Martin as a whole, while still benefiting humanity and getting us to the moon and Mars and you know, not preventing, but unfortunately, but helping mitigate climate change and things like that. And so, yeah, that's really kind of how I moved to business development. And that is my biggest piece of advice for everyone who comes to me asking, like, I don't like my job. Write down a time in your life that you did really, really thrive, that you really liked something. And write down like the themes of why you liked it, not just, the technical day-to-day of I was using Excel every day or something like that, right? But write down the overarching themes of what you liked, and then go to a mentor who is an expert in your industry or your company and say, can you please help me find a job that uses these skills? And most of the time they're going to be able to find you something.
For sure. And it's so, I really admire you for, sorry, my little dog wants up. Muncie, do you want
Oh, please. I want to see.
Come here. There you go.
Oh, hi.
You want to say hi, Muncie?
My dog is way too big.
But no, I really admire you for the fact that you acknowledged that you weren't necessarily happy or it wasn't serving you anymore, your current position. Because too many of us just stay in our current position for too long, miserable, just because we think we have to. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you recognized this and took action on it, I think is huge.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, I do think that there's, I see someone asking about Atlas as we were talking about our dog. I think that there's value in staying in a job for a certain amount of time, but, and it's not college. I can't just quit after 3 months, right? But, but yeah, recognizing that you're unhappy. And I think that's such a great part of our generation and the generations coming up is that we're all so focused on being happy that, and knowing that there are so many opportunities out there for us. And just finding the right people to help you get to that place. Find the right, I just spilled coffee everywhere, but I'm so excited, but get to the right thing,
Yeah. No, it's true. And it sounds like now you have I think you phrased it this way at the start of our chat, and I really like it, is the best of both worlds, the business development side of things, but also the aerospace side of things, like the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Okay, Question number 2 is, can I make a career in aerospace as a software engineer? And if so, how?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. The software, and, I tell people this too, when they ask me, what should I be majoring in? I'm like, well, what do you like? There's so many things, and we need everything in the space industry. And so coding is, oh my gosh, like the entire space industry revolves around that now. And we need software for satellites, for deep space exploration, for human space flight, for literally anything. And it all revolves around software now. Everything is automated, which is good. I mean, obviously it's not great, but it's so good because it just, whatever. We can talk about that forever. But,
yeah.
And I think most of your followers are in like the software development world or want to be in there, so they know the drill. But yeah, I mean, it's so applicable to think about like you're coding for XYZ industry right now. I mean, every industry needs it, right? And so you just take what you're doing and apply it to space.
Exactly. I love that. It's so true, and it's one of those things that we could spend all day talking about this, but same thing with the tech industry in the sense that. Some people, or some of my friends even, are like, oh, I really want to work in tech, but I don't want to learn necessarily how to code. I'm like, well, tech needs marketing. They need, HR. They need, and then I'm same with, aerospace. Like, it's not, I think people have sometimes this one narrow conception of it, but there's like, just like every industry, we need all of these different roles too.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to that representation, right? Like there are so many, I'm in a group chat of most of the girls who do like science communication or space communication here, and it's like, we have electrical engineering, we have launch systems integration, we have a mission controller on ISS, we have somebody who codes, like so many different things. And I think that's so important just to have that representation and feed off one another as well, and learn about their side of the industry. And the really cool thing about space that I also really, really love about it is that, we need literally kind of what you're saying, we need marketing and HR and everything, but for space, take it one step further. We need doctors, we need lawyers. Space law is a huge thing right now. We have to figure out, especially as we go back to the moon and Mars, like what are the laws there, because they're really kind of undefined right now, or they're very outdated.
Yes.
So we need space law, we need doctors, right? You can be a flight surgeon, whatever it's called, for astronauts. But also what I look at is we're building a sustainable settlement on the moon. That means you need everything on the moon and eventually Mars that we have here on Earth. Yeah. And so whatever you like, whatever industry you're in, if you like space, there's a job for you here. Yeah. And it's only going to get better as we actually go back and live on the moon full time. And you know, the other thing is it's our first big chance at starting over and creating a settlement that fixes a lot of the problems that we have here on Earth. And that's a really, really big challenge. And it's into the hands of our leaders, right? Our government, and space law, right? It's the next few years are really going to define how, if we are successful in eliminating a lot of the problems that we have here on Earth.
Wow. I feel like, you know what, I'm not even going to ask any questions on that, because I feel like I could ask you like another hour of questions on that. But it's so, yeah, it's amazing. It's really incredible.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's such an awesome industry, and I encourage everyone to learn about it and go into it if they're interested in it.
Yes. Okay, last question from the audience, which is, how was the process when you applied as an aerospace engineer? So I'm assuming they mean maybe for your first full-time role.
Yeah, so I actually was pretty fortunate that I had an internship at Lockheed Martin, and then that internship rolled into a full-time job because I did well that summer. But so I can go back to when I applied as an intern, and it kind of, again, goes back to everything we've been saying about that mentorship, right? And I was really fortunate to be in a position where I could meet somebody that could help me get into the company and explain my passion for human space exploration and what I wanted to do. And he helped me find the right people, and started doing informational interviews and learning about their jobs and learning about the company and the program. And ultimately, I submitted my resume and had an interview on the phone, actually, and before COVID was a thing. But and they hired me, and that turned into a full-time job.
Yeah. It goes back to, exactly. It goes, as you mentioned, it just goes back to the mentor, having those people you can trust and rely on, and that believe in you. Yeah. Amazing. Camille, it's been such a great, I just feel so honored to be chatting with you. It's just been really inspiring, and it's a great way to start my Saturday. So thank you for taking time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And seriously, I'm going to return the favor, and I want to learn all about your background. And that's so cool that you don't have an educational background in it, and you are so successful. And so I'll save that. I'll save that for hours. So everyone listening, be on the lookout for that. But thank you so much. So great talking to you, like verbally for the first time, and getting to know you too.
Yes, for sure. I'm going to, for everyone watching and will be watching, I'm going to link Camille's socials down below. So make sure to go check her out. I'll talk to you soon, Camille.
Bye. You too.